Hello, I'm Stacy Keach. Join me right now for Mysterious Places as we travel to the Land's End Peninsula in England.
They seem like images from a dream. Beautiful, haunting, ancient. And they speak to us, to the curious,
I brought you here because I want
to the scientist, to the artist, to the mystic. They all come here to seek answers, to witness firsthand England's most otherworldly landscape, and to explore for themselves the ancient mysteries of Land's End.
As we set out to explore the mysterious stone structures of Land's End, we must never lose sight of an elusive component of our study: time. Specifically, as we view the stone structures today, as we try to gain insight into their mysterious origins, we are tempted to group them all together as merely ancient stones. But this can be misleading. For in fact, the stone structures which we are about to investigate have distinct characteristics, and they were built throughout many different eras in history spanning thousands of years. And so, as we begin our search for the answers to who, why, and how, we must always keep in mind the question, when?
This is the southwestern tip of England, the ancient Duchy of Cornwall, famed for its natural beauty and its wealth of archaeological sites. The most important antiquities in Cornwall are located in the Land's End Peninsula, about 275 miles southwest of London. Here we discover a collection of curious sites that have long been part of the landscape. Some were built over 5,000 years ago. Scientists divide these sites into several categories. There are the so-called hold stones. Many are flanked on either side by provocative upright stones. There are the caves, known as fogous, hidden just beneath the surface of the earth. Most are reinforced by huge stone slabs. And there are the table-shaped stone structures known as quoits or dolmens. They consist of several upright stones supporting a massive horizontal capstone. And there are more, hundreds of intriguing ancient structures, all within 20 miles of each other. The builders of these monuments are long gone, their purpose obscured by time. Yet the monuments themselves continue to inspire and fascinate. Who built these stone structures? And for what purpose? Are the different monuments connected in some way? Our search for answers begins on a winding road. We travel past wind-swept moors and arrive at an ancient settlement called Carn-Uni. It is located about 5 miles northeast of the tip of Land's End Peninsula. Here we discover one of the best preserved man-made caves in the area. In Cornish, they are called fogous. Researchers have long been baffled by their purpose. Ian Cook is an artist and writer who studied the mystery of fogous. Ian's curiosity led him to embark on an in-depth study of the fogou at Carn-Uni.
Well, here we are at Carn-Uni Iron Age village in West Cornwall at the beginning of the fogou or underground cave. Now originally, when this was built around about the 4th century BC, this was totally enclosed. This was all earth just there with huge stone lintels across this open space which continued all down this long curved passage. There were considerable excavations took place here in the 1960s which discovered a whole host of hitherto unknown features about these sites. Now the function of fogous, which are unique to Cornwall, has been a matter of some controversy. Archaeologists have normally opted for functions of refuge for these sites, but bearing in mind that it was totally enclosed originally, both this end and the end that we just walked down, the only way into this passage would have been down this tiny creep. Now, if you can imagine a sudden attack on the village, old women, pregnant women, babies, children, the sick would have had to get down this tiny passage to seek refuge underground here. And that would have been clearly quite impossible or impractical. My own theories have led me to conclude that this was in fact a sacred space for rituals, was linked to the sun.
Ian tested his theory by photographing the sun on several ancient ceremonial dates, such as the summer solstice.
The thing about fogous and the orientation of their passages towards the northeast led me to believe that there was some connection between that and the rising sun, either at the old pagan festival of Beltane at the beginning of May, or else at midsummer. And I decided I would go to Carnuni to actually test this out by being in the fogou round about midsummer and seeing where the sun came from. And I did this in 1986, and the sun in fact rose dead in line with the end of the passage. And I later confirmed that theory at 3 other sites.
Ian's photographs seem to prove a connection between the fogou and the sun, but they still leave many questions unanswered. Was this indeed a ceremonial structure? Or was it a refuge, as many archaeologists believe? Or perhaps it was both? Ongoing research might someday provide answers. The fogou is only one of the great mysteries at Carnuni. Long before the cave was built here, people lived at this site. Who were they? And what were their lives like? Nicholas Johnson of the Cornwall Archaeological Unit has made his own studies of the area.
It's not often you get a chance to stroll through a prehistoric village, but we have that opportunity here, built perhaps 2,500 years ago and lasting for perhaps 900 years. This village consisted of about 5 or 6 houses with perhaps 5 or 6 families, and they were farmers. But perhaps the most exciting thing about this particular site is that it's been excavated very well, so we have a very good idea of the material culture. What's pretty well known to us is the farming techniques. We know what sort of pottery they had. We know what sort of crops they grew.
Despite the many artifacts found at Carnuni, some aspects of life here remain elusive.
So what is the mystery that draws so many people here, especially during the summer months? It surely can't be the material culture, because we know that reasonably well. The site has been well excavated. It must be that we simply don't understand how they lived, what their life was, what their religion was, how they felt about each other, how they felt about their rulers. If there were rulers, where were they? We simply don't know, and perhaps we never will.
For Nicholas Johnson, the most intriguing thing about Carnuni is the continuum of life here. People have occupied this settlement area for thousands of years. In many cases, they added extensions onto buildings which already existed here. And as we see from the surrounding farms, they never really left the land. It is this same sense of continuity which plays a key role in one of the greatest mysteries of Land's End. When we return, the mystery of ley lines.
Put the stone in to mark the turning point.
Stay with us as we continue our investigation of the Land's End Peninsula in England.
Here's a mysterious places travel tip. The town of Penzance is an excellent starting point for your investigation of Land's End. 10 express trains run daily from London's Paddington Station. Trip time is 5 hours. The cost is $90 one way.
We're back in England with the ancient mysteries of Land's End.
Rugged, expansive, dramatic. This is Carn le Bole, an area of Land's End which embraces the extraordinary scenery for which Cornwall is celebrated. But Carnlebole is important for another, more mystical reason. Some say it proves one of England's most mysterious theories, the theory of ley lines. A ley line is a straight alignment of sacred sites. Some believe the ancient people deliberately built these sacred monuments to line up this way, and that some ley lines are crisscrossed by so-called earth energies. These are subtle natural energy fields that remain unproven by modern science, but can they be detected by other means? We begin our own investigation of ley lines and earth energies at Carnlebole, the site of one of England's most famous alignments, the St. Michael ley line.
I think the greatest mystery of all, for me anyway, is the St. Michael ley line, which begins over on that headland over there and runs right up the length of southern Britain, connecting many dozens of these ancient sites.
Martin Hunt is a local guide. He's well versed in the mysteries of the Cornish coast, both sacred and natural. Today he's joined by the Connecticut Audubon Society on a journey to Carnlebole. The path is untamed, open only to the intrepid explorer. At Carnlebole, the group is able to experience the beauty of the Cornish coast. They've been lucky enough to catch a glimpse of the area's population of Atlantic gray seals. But of course, one of the greatest thrills is seeing the point where the St. Michael ley line begins.
The reason I brought you here is to show you just where the St. Michael ley line comes ashore in southern Cornwall. And we're now situated just to the east of Land's End, and the headland over there is Carnlebole. And Carnlebole is an ancient site. In fact, on it, as you'll see a bit later when we get there, there is an ancient prehistoric Iron Age cliff castle. And that's just one of many dozens of ancient sites that have been built along this subtle line of energy which has been detected now for between 4,000 and 5,000 years by man down through the ages.
According to theory, the St. Michael ley line stretches for 330 miles from Carnlebole to Norfolk. It encompasses many sacred sites. They were built at different times throughout history. Some say this suggests a sense of continuity, that the people always felt a need to build on these sites. These sites do seem to line up, but was it planned that way? And do some ley lines actually intersect with earth energies, or is this merely coincidence?
Oh, they knew what they were doing, yes. They knew an awful lot better. You can see they had to communicate with the cosmic and earth energy because they had to survive. They couldn't, for instance, look at the calendar and say, this is when I plant the seed, because they had to know when to do all these things, to have their ceremony.
Hamish Miller believes he can prove these sites were built on earth energies. He is a dowser and uses a sort of divining rod to actually locate energy. To prove his theory of energy lines, Hamish has come to an important archaeological site.
I'm walking in towards a very sacred circle called Boscawen. And the first register on the rods will be the protective circle, which there are 8 concentric rings round as a sort of protection of the site. And it is sacred, so you really have to ask permission to come in. And when we go round the stones, you find that each one is connected to the magnetic center. And it's very easy to get a very accurate direction by sighting the rods like a rifle sight. It points right to the base of the stone. And if you follow the direction of the energy in here, you find that when we get to the base of the stone, the rod gives a very positive change of direction, which is exactly lined up on the stone. It's like a medieval telegraphic site. And they knew exactly what they were doing, which is an awful lot more than we know at the moment. But we are learning.
Does dowsing work, as Hamish Miller claims? Some scientists agree that dowsing works in some instances. It has been used for centuries as a way to locate underground water sources, but whether or not it proves the existence of energy lines is controversial. Perhaps that's for future generations to discover. There is, however, one discovery on which all researchers seem to agree. Ritual played an important part in the lives of the ancients. When we return.
We'll be right back with Mysterious Places. We now continue with Mysterious Places.
These women call themselves pagans and regard themselves as worshippers of nature and Mother Earth. They have come to the countryside just a few miles west of Penzance to perform a sacred ceremony in accordance with their belief. This site was not chosen by accident. Hidden amidst the foliage is a source of spring water. This is Alya Well, which many believe is a sacred or holy well. Author Cheryl Straffen is among the believers.
I think the holy wells in particular are very healing places. They're places of great sanctity, places of great peace and tranquility.
Cheryl and others believe that people have performed rituals here and at the other sacred sites for thousands of years. And so the questions arise. Did the ancients actually use them for ritualistic purposes? And if so, what rituals were performed? These are among the great mysteries of Land's End. History has recorded some of the rituals, such as the case with the holy wells found throughout Cornwall.
I used to visit them for healing purposes. Mothers used to bring their children and put them through the water in order to be healed. And also for divination. Young maidens used to come here on the first 3 Sundays in May, dropping pins into the water, and according to how the pins rose or fell, it would tell their future.
Although a great deal is known about the use of holy wells, the ritualistic purpose of other sites in Land's End remain far more elusive. They are called quoits. They are perhaps the most intriguing of all the sacred monuments. Land's End boasts several quoits. Some are fairly accessible. Lanyon Quot sits in a field alongside a well-traveled road and is perhaps one of the most popular. Others are more remote. To visit Chun Quot, for instance, a traveler must venture up a rugged footpath. At the top of the hill, they first discover the remains of an Iron Age fort, probably built around 2,000 years ago. And finally, the quot itself. The exact purpose of the quoits has baffled researchers for generations. Were they altars built by the Druids, as was once believed? Probably not. Current research shows that these structures are about 4,000 years old, which predates the Druids. Are they ancient tombs, as many of today's researchers claim? Again, there are no easy answers.
It's been believed that these dolmens and chamber tombs are, in fact, sepulchres where you actually physically bury a body. But a lot of people feel now that they've fulfilled a larger function than that they were territorial markers. You know, this is where my territory is. But also because they're often built within farmland, contemporary farmland, that in fact they are to do with the fertility of the soil, and therefore you deposit more than just a body. You deposit burnt soil and pottery and so on. It's a very complex subject, and more anthropological actually than probably archaeological.
Perhaps just as complex is the purpose of Menantol, one of the most provocative sites in all of Land's End. In Cornish, Menantol means hold stone. Most archaeologists believe the stone dates from the Bronze Age around 2000 BC. Although its purpose remains unknown, some believe it may have been an entranceway to an underground gravesite. Whatever its original purpose, Menantol has inspired many customs throughout the ages. During the 19th century, tubercular children were passed through the hole. This was said to result in a speedy cure. Although this custom has long since vanished, the stone itself continues to fascinate us. Perhaps more than any other site, Untold reflects the sometimes surreal nature of the monuments at Land's End and the curiosity they inspire. Can we ever understand the people who lived, worked, and worshipped on these wind-swept moors thousands of years ago? Will we ever know for certain why the ancient people built these monuments, or what importance they held in their lives? The answers may remain elusive. Yet researchers, artists, true believers, and curious travelers alike continue to be drawn here to the mysteries of Land's End.
The building of important structures in Land's End continued throughout much of history. Several extraordinary castles, for instance, were built in the area during medieval times. Many cite these and other more recent structures as further proof that Land's End possesses a mystical power that has, for centuries, driven people to build. Until next time, I'm Stacy Keach for Mysterious Places.